Welcome, everyone, to the Cardano Effect podcast, episode 89. The purpose of this podcast is to take high-level developer information and projects that are occurring within the Cardano space and break them down into bite-sized, consumable pieces of information for everyday use. I'm your host, Philippe, and let's get this podcast started. The hosts of the Cardano Effect are Rick and myself, as usual, and we have a couple of very special guests joining us today. We're going to get right into the mix of things. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video. Keep on supporting this podcast. We're growing, and it's all thanks to you. So without further ado, none of what we say on this podcast is financial advice. Remember, you are your best financial advisor, and if you don't think you are, you need to find someone who's qualified to do so. Rick, it is Saturday afternoon. How are you doing? What's going on? What's happening?
Hey, I'm doing great, Philippe. We got great springtime weather around here, and everybody's still kind of hunkered down with the COVID thing going on. So I would like to roll into giving a shout out to the Cardano Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you very much, Cardano Foundation. And also our guests here today are from the Cardano Foundation, from our sponsors. I would also like to remind viewers who are new to this podcast that this podcast is available on all audio streaming platforms. So if you are working out or driving in your car and you would like to listen on audio, it's available to you. And a few weeks ago, we exceeded 50,000 unique downloads. So well done on that, Philippe. Well done.
Yes.
All right. So on to our guests. Thank you for joining us today. We have Mr. Hinrich Pfeifer. He's the General Secretary at the Cardano Foundation, and Tiago Serôdio, who is the Community Project Manager at the Cardano Foundation. Thank you for joining us today, gentlemen. And usually when we have our first podcast with a new guest, we'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And Hinrich, if we could start with you, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're calling in from. How are you doing today, sir? Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much, Rick and Philippe, for having us here. It's great to be here. I'm dialing in from Zurich, our Zurich office, and happy to be on the podcast today.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you being here. And Tiago, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for inviting us to this podcast. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Even way before even thinking about being part of the Cardano Foundation, I was following your podcast, so it's really nice to be here.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. And as you guys know, we had a Reddit thread up because we got some great Redditors over here at the Cardano Effect. And we put the thread up and then we reorganized the questions. The questions are now reorganized into a format for the presentation for our subject today, which is the incentivized Cardano Ambassador program. So thanks to our Reddit people, Oris Tech, Foxinator, Griff the Gray, Mr. Brinker 59, thanks a lot for your Reddit questions. Plus, we have some other questions rolled in there as well. Philippe, would you like to get us started on what we're talking about today, sir?
Yes. So for everyone who is tuning in today, whether you are an ambassador or not, I think this is a must-watch episode because the Cardano Foundation represents the community. It represents the future growth of Cardano is going to be, the ambassadors are going to have a large role in helping push this community forward. So whether you are an ambassador, whether you're not an ambassador, whether you want to become an ambassador, I think that everyone can learn a little bit about, they can take something from this episode and understand exactly where the project is moving forward. So just to clarify that the subject of this podcast is the phase 2, the rewards program of the ambassador program. Rick and myself are ambassadors. We're content creator ambassadors. And Rick and I have been in this space, in the Cardano space, for quite some time. And we were actually here before the ambassador program even existed. So we've seen it from the genesis to what it is now, and it's very refreshing to see. And we have two great representatives to speak about what is going on with the ambassador program. So the first question, and any of you can take it, and it is what is phase 2? And first, I'd like you to describe what the ambassador program is, but what is phase 2, the rewards program? How does it deal with ambassadors? What is phase 2? What does rewards mean? And what value does it add?
I'm happy to take this, Philippe. So I want to start with the ambassador program in general. I think it's good for people watching the podcast who don't necessarily know the ambassador program yet. So it was established end of 2018 by the Cardano Foundation. And we have a huge and really engaged community that adds strong value to the whole Cardano project, right? If we look at the period between the launch of the ambassador program and today, it's just impressive to see the growth of the community and also how engaged the community is and the increase of engagement over the past months. But within the community, we also have individuals who are really going above and beyond their duties and contribute to the whole project. And it's such a material commitment that you can clearly say, hey, it's really much more than just being engaged in the community, right? And those individuals are seen as our key contributors in the community. So our ambassadors, like we call them today. So like you, Philippe, and you, Rick. So really people who are opinion formers within the community, who really drive and guide the community from inside, who drive awareness and adoption of Cardano and shape the community behavior, which is important. Also come up with new ideas and ask questions, and also ask critical or challenging questions, right? That's important for us to also get your feedback and to be able to consider different perspectives from the community and from our ambassadors. So, and for those key contributors within the community, those are the people for whom we created the ambassador program. And the purpose behind is that we want to create a strong link between all ecosystem partners and the ambassadors. And I think I can describe it that we want to ensure that we really have an open and constructive dialogue with the ambassadors, which is mutually beneficial. And we can empower or want to empower the ambassadors, as you mentioned at the beginning. They are a very important part of our community and important part of our project. And we want to support them in whatever they do while working on Cardano-related topics, right? And it's also important to have a regular feedback loop to get the feedback. Ambassadors are being involved in testing new ideas and in testing new products, and to provide feedback, which then at the end we can consider for our work internally at the foundation. And I think you can also say that it's a step forward with regards to decentralization of the whole ecosystem. And that's how I would see the development since the beginning or since the launch of the ambassador program. The current situation is that we have 4 ambassador roles. So we have the translator ambassadors who really promote Cardano by translating different content and making it accessible to people speaking different languages in different geographical regions. Then the second role are our content creator ambassadors, like you, who educate the community by creating content, who really transfer knowledge within the community and also for external audiences, and create any kind of content, be it interviews or writing articles or podcasts and so on, right? Then we have the meetup organizer ambassadors who really focus on bringing local communities together or bringing people together locally that are interested in Cardano, having discussions, exchanges, and really also driving local education during those events, and also promoting Cardano, right? The fourth role are the moderators. Moderator ambassadors keep our social channels informative. So they ensure that we have interesting discussions, that the community or the channel members get responses to their questions. We have a good engagement and also ensure, which is important, that we have a respectful behavior within our channels, right? That's key to have this. And that's the basis of the status. We can call it phase 1 or core module of the ambassador program. And we have been quite successful with the program. So we have more than 50 ambassadors globally. And I think we have more than 100 applications received since the launch of the program, which is really impressive to see. And now we have recently launched the phase 2. And I think the ambassadors and also we waited a long time for this. It was a long way. But especially, I want to highlight that Tiago and the whole team has really done a great job on this, especially during the past time. It was a lot of effort, but we were very excited that we could finally launch it now. It's the next building block for the entire vision we have for our ambassador program and also for our community strategy. So the idea behind it is that we want to reward the material commitment of our ambassadors. It's some kind of token of appreciation, recognition, also motivational gesture to our ambassadors. The goal is to bring the ambassadors together, to bring them to collaborate closer, and also to strengthen their relationship to the Cardano Foundation and the other two ecosystem partners. And it's an important milestone for us. It's important to say that it's a pilot at the moment. We launched a pilot for the next 2 to 3 months, which will help us to also get feedback from the ambassadors to see, hey, is it really working with the ambassadors, or can the ambassadors really work with the program how we defined it, or do we need to change something, make something more efficient for our ambassadors? And it's also a good test for us internally to see if the processes we have designed internally are working on our side and are efficient. The maintenance of the program is intensive. It's also a cross-functional or cross-team effort to maintain the program. So it's a good test for ambassadors and also for us to see if it's working like we developed it on paper. And if there need to be adjustments made, then we're happy to have a look at this. And I mean, there's work ongoing in all directions currently internally at the Cardano Foundation. And looking at into the future, I definitely convinced that we will also add additional modules to the current ambassador program and also add new roles for our ambassadors. I'm pretty sure that this will be the case. So as mentioned, our ambassadors and also the whole community is a key pillar of the Cardano project. And the plan is to really come up step by step with additional modules to our existing program, and also with new initiatives for the whole community.
Well, thanks, Hinrich. And you guys did a great job communicating it, because I saw the launch and it was all very well understood. And I think people were pretty receptive of it. I hope you got good feedback so far. So, Tiago, did you want to add to that, or do we want to roll on to the next question here, which kind of like relates to directly what Hinrich was saying, and that is,
yeah, let's move on, because this introduction was really spot on, and it touches a bit on on a lot that we're going to cover today. So, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, and that was a great overview, and that rolls into the next part, which is, why is it important to launch phase 2, and how will it work? So now we're getting into the details. Why is it important to launch?
Well, it's important to launch phase 2, the rewards phase, because it is high time we formally acknowledge the efforts and contributions from our ambassadors. As Hinrich mentioned, it's no secret that the launch of phase 2 has been in the works for quite some time now, but it went through several iterations, several internal audits, and even user testing. We tested it out back in December, and then we realized that we needed to apply some changes to the initial phase 2 design. So much in the same way that basic academic research was necessary to actually start committing to code the Cardano protocol, a lot of groundwork was also needed to launch phase 2 to become future-proof. It was no trivial task with many ambassadors, and dependencies down the road, because we're going to increase in numbers. That's our projection. And basically, well, just like 3 main components to how phase 2 will work. I'm not going to dive like really deep into the finer details. That is on the website, and I'm sure that you guys will add all the relevant links to this podcast so that people can move forward and find these details and potentially join the program. But I'll explain the most important topics. So the 3 most important components are the application process, the rewards calculation, and the ambassador levels, I would say. So to apply as an ambassador, it's through the cardano.org website /ambassadors, and anyone can nominate either themselves or another community member. There are a set of criteria, very low barrier of entry. So we want to invite people to join us, but we do have criteria that people need to meet before they are eligible to become an ambassador. So for content creators, they need to produce at least 3 pieces of Cardano exclusive content and publish it somewhere on the internet so that we can, check it out. So don't send in a PDF or a Word document. It needs to be on the internet. The meetup organizers need to have done at least 2 meetups with a minimum of 10 people in the past 3 months to qualify. The moderators is kind of a special situation because they are already in our channels. They need to be someone that we as the community team already know and we trust, so that when, the world doesn't stop, there's a 24-hour time zone all around the world. The social channels do not stop, so we need to be absolutely sure that these moderators are people that we can entrust our channels. So to become a moderator, first and foremost, you need to be very active in our channels and prove yourself, so to speak. And finally, translators, they need to provide at least 3,000 words of translation of Cardano exclusive content. And likewise, it needs to be published somewhere on the internet. It can be on our forum, for example, no problem.
Yeah.
So the rewards, the ambassadors will receive, once they are nominated and accepted into the program, they will receive what we nicknamed the proof of work sheet, in honor to proof of work. So this is a sheet where they will basically record all their production for the current month. And internally, the community management team will rate their work, sum it up, and then at the end of the month, we will ask the ambassador to generate an invoice. And after all that has been thoroughly reviewed, rewards are then issued to their wallets. It is not a simple task, given that we have 52 ambassadors currently. It's going to be a challenge, but we're absolutely confident that it's going to work out nicely. We have worked extremely hard to streamline the process as best as we can, while at the same time ensuring rigor and auditability, which is a fundamental part of the Ambassador Program and the Cardano Foundation.
Excellent. Thanks. I got to give a shout out to the moderators and the meetup organizers. As as a content creator, I know to me, it feels like second nature, but the content creators, the meetup organizer moderators, you got to have a good, steady hand. And you got to be thorough and patient. And,
very patient.
Yeah. Yep. And then with the meetup organizers, now they got to practice that and social distancing. So good luck. Good luck
there's also the possibility to do virtual meetups now, so that's a good thing as well. Nice. And it's been shown to be very effective. I would argue maybe more effective than offline, but we'll see.
Wow, cool! It's good to hear.
Rick, it really gives you a look at the scale of this project. For there to be 50 ambassadors going through this program, and they are going through phase 2, and Cardano Foundation has to go through the rewards for each of these ambassadors. I mean, that's gigantic. That's like a whole workforce that you're adding on to the foundation. And while they're not formally Cardano Foundation employees, but at the same time, they're integral to Cardano Foundation moving forward and the success of the project. So kudos to you. Kudos to your whole team.
Thank you.
Thank you very
well
much.
Done, guys, getting the launch. It seemed smooth. I thought it was very smooth. Smooth. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's good so far. We received very positive feedback and also many new applications from people from the community who want to become ambassador.
Great.
It's great to see.
Rick and I, we speak on and off camera, and we can be critical at times, and we really didn't have anything hypercritical to say about the launch of phase 2 of the rewards program. And Rick can attest to that too. So those are our thoughts.
It's great to hear. As I said, it's a pilot currently, and we also want to get your feedback, right? If you think something can be made more efficient, then let us know. Very happy to discuss this.
Well, thank you.
Sounds
good. We will.
All right. Next question for Tiago. What are the short-term goals of this particular phase, the pilot and the test phase?
The pilot and test period, yeah. Well, in essence, to get feedback and refine variables. Even the best developers know how taking an apparently flawless and pristine code from a sandbox DevNet environment into an open testnet usually brings unexpected outcomes, bugs, and other fragilities. We're taking the same philosophy with the Ambassador program. So, as mentioned before, we have 52 ambassadors, and we expect this number to grow. There are immeasurable internal processes to be put into action, several hundred of individual pieces of work to be reviewed each month, payments to be sent out in a duly manner. We need to test all these parameters as well as collect feedback for the most affected people, which are our ambassadors, right? So once we all agree that phase 2 is a solid design, then it will not change significantly for a foreseeable future. But yeah, this pilot is all about, let's throw it out there. Let's see how it works. Let's, if needed, let's go back to the drawing board and refine and tweak and make it better.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And I got to give you guys a shout out for that one because payments in ADA. Well done. Well done, guys.
It had to be done, of course.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Tiago. All right. What was, so our next one here we had, how will you deal if ambassadors increase their output to qualify for higher rewards? So someone says, oh, I usually do this much work, but I'm going to ramp up how much work I output. How are you going to deal with that?
Well, that is a great question, and one that made me sit down and think hard on some sort of anti-spam mechanism. And that is actually how the idea for the 3 ambassador levels actually popped up. So yeah, to avoid that, because when there's incentives, human nature changes and people change. It's natural. It's human nature. But so we implemented the rewards cap for each role per month. This alone should deter anyone trying to game the system for the sake of financial gain. To compensate for the cap, the level system was created to allow ambassadors to earn more as time goes on. So level 1, what we nicknamed the Al-Khwarizmi Ambassador, the cap is $300 per month, right? Then level 2, Mirzakhani Ambassador, the cap is $450 per month. And level 3, the Turing Ambassador is able to earn up to $600 per month. Now, let me be absolutely clear that every ambassador starts at level 1. Okay, everyone starts in equal grounds. Every quarter per year, we will send out a call for nominations, and 4 ambassadors will be promoted to level 2, and 4 ambassadors from level 2 to level 3. So this will happen every quarter of the year. Now, it's really important to note that we are not necessarily aiming for vast volumes of work by ambassadors, okay? We are aiming for a healthy environment where everyone is able to contribute as little or as much as they like at their own pace, pleasure, and time. Ambassadors, first and foremost, represent the vision and ethos of the Cardano Foundation wishes to promote. Those who best achieve this will be able to unlock the possibility to receive more rewards if they so wish to. So really, we should think about this as an anti-spam mechanism. We're not looking to spam the internet with redundant Cardano content. That is what other programs are experiencing as a side effect of their design. Because yes, we did go out and look into various other ambassador programs from the cryptosphere and outside the cryptosphere. So rather we want to promote those who really zoom into the vision and the mission to drive adoption, shape legislation and commercial standards, to grow the Cardano community like you guys are doing with this podcast, and to some degree also ensure stakeholder accountability and facilitating partnerships. Now, obviously, this is not the primary mandate of the ambassadors, not even a mandate, but ambassadors will be key elements to make this happen across our ecosystem. Ultimately, we envision our ambassadors to be prime participants to make the Cardano protocol come to life in society.
Wow, you guys put a lot of thought into that. I'm glad to see that you put all those considerations and learn from other cryptocurrency projects.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Nice work. It looks like we had a couple more of the Reddit questions rolled in there, which was number 5 and 6. Why is it important to introduce tiers for content creators? And what is the rationale behind? Did you already got that covered, didn't you? In that last section?
Well, no, there's tiers for ambassadors, and within the content creator ambassador role, there are 3 tiers of content reward levels.
Okay.
So let me explain. This is a difficult topic, which we had very long discussions. So not all content is created equal. To start off with, what is quality? Okay, how do you define it? Entire philosophy books have been written on the subject, and in particular one which I read and was like mind blown, which is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert M. Pirsig, which ultimately drove him to insanity trying to do so. And this is a real life storybook. He went completely mad trying to define what quality is. I highly recommend that book. But quality can be both quantitative and qualitative. And that's the problem here. It depends on the subject at hand. In some cultures, something may be deemed as high quality, while in others, it's low quality, right? It's a bit like the notion of value. Where does the value of ADA come from? It comes from people agreeing or disagreeing on its worth. Okay, I'm sidetracking here, but I hope to make it to understand the logic. Right?
It's good. Please continue.
So usually when something is of high quality, it's supposed to be worth more, right? So let's say that you get into the Louvre and you take the Mona Lisa out and you take it really into the deep Amazonian jungle and you give it as a present to the tribe leader. He will very likely thank you very much for the wood and the screen that will feed the fire that cooks his dinner, right? Because to him, the Mona Lisa is not one of the masterpieces of the Italian Renaissance. It is a source of energy, which to him is much more valuable than hanging it up on a wall to look at, right? So of course this was a caricature, but it's an example of how difficult it is to pinpoint exactly what quality is and what has intrinsic value or not. So we've seen Cardano content that was extremely easy and quick to produce, that made a massive positive contribution to the community. Others took a lot of time and effort to create other types of content, but it was of particular interest to a subset of the community, like, for example, really high level or deep technical guides for developers. Who is to say which is worth more or less, right? Would it be fair to rate all content at the same rate? We don't think so. So we opted not to try to judge quality, as it is so subjective, rather assess the effort made into the production of that content, the accuracy and the relevancy of each piece. So we created the 3 tiers in an effort to motivate our ambassadors to strive for the highest reward level, of course. Right? Having said this, we are not entirely satisfied with our current criteria. We hope to involve our ambassadors to brainstorm with us, to provide suggestions on how we can improve upon it. We will be having several AMAs or roundtables where we can openly discuss the topic and hopefully find a better solution.
Thanks for that very thorough definition.
I hope that made sense. I don't know. Sometimes I say things that make sense in my head, and I hope that I conveyed the message that we are going to subjectively judge content on objective return on investment to the community, which is a bit difficult, but we'll get there.
I think you explained it extremely well. That way people won't cry foul or say no fair. I made 10 videos that were blah blah blah, and that guy made 1 video. I know what you mean. I think you made your point very well. You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
It might sound when I can add, it might sound a bit complex when you hear it or read it the first time, right? But a lot of effort has gone into this topic. And we also thought about different alternatives or scenarios, what can happen and what shouldn't happen. So I think we're on a good way with the proposal that the team agreed on, and we think we're going into the right direction. But that's why we have the pilot for, right? To get the feedback and then also see if the ambassadors are the same opinion or if have any other topics that we need to discuss.
Yep. No, I completely understand. Plus, when you come up with a new program, I think you took into account that the floodgates open and a lot more people are going to want to join, which I think is great. I mean, that's why you incentivize something. And then at some point, you got to filter it out. You got to have standards. You got to have what does quality look like? You know, how does it impact? I think it was a pretty thoughtful, and again, it's an experiment because you never know how something's going to work until you do it.
Yeah.
So we're going to learn by doing, and then we're going to figure out what's going to be better later on.
It's a fine line to cross. I mean, at the beginning of this podcast, I was saying that Rick and I have been part of the project from before we even knew about the ambassador program or before the genesis of the ambassador program. So introducing rewards, of course, you're going to have increased content, and you don't want the project coming off as more of like a shill. And there's a lot of that in the crypto sphere. And it's important to distinguish between quality versus quantity, even though that could be subjective. So I think that tiered system for content creation, which is at the forefront of promotion for crypto projects to start off with, I think that's a great addition that you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Plus, what was the word? Cardano specific or Cardano centric? It's Cardano related though. It's not like I can just do a subject on anything I want and then throw in the word Cardano and then
precisely.
Look, it's Cardano.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be exclusive Cardano, obviously, but within reason. Obviously, the people are welcome to create content that compares projects, hopefully to provoke more thought and offer insight into what can be improved on. But yeah, basically, like you said, you're not going to add in a little paragraph about Cardano on a 1,500 word piece and then expect that to be eligible for rewards. No, it's really about educating our community and our non-community about what Cardano is. So it's important to maintain it Cardano-centric, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understood.
Sounds good.
All right. So the sixth question we have here is, what is the rationale behind ambassadorship levels, Tiago?
Right. So as we briefly touched before, the ambassador level is a way to further promote who we consider to be the best representing ambassadors in their journey to promote Cardano Foundation's mission and the Cardano project protocol. We recognize that despite having their primary role, some of our best ambassadors do far more than that. Many content creators are also wonderful moderators. Rockstar translators are also great meetup organizers. Some even perform 3 roles consistently, month after month. So we thought it would be terribly demotivating if these efforts were not rewarded too. Right? Because as soon as you introduce monetary rewards, I mean, if I'm doing all of these roles and I'm not getting rewarded, then naturally, if the other guy's making tomato out of doing that and I'm not, then okay, let him do it then. So we didn't want to create that sort of an environment, that demotivating sort of environment. Quite on the contrary. Let me really state that the ambassador levels has nothing to do with work volume. It has nothing to do with personality. It has nothing to do with seniority, and it certainly is not about achieving a higher social status. Okay, it is an extra step to motivate upcoming ambassadors to strive to do better, to represent the Cardano project by having concrete examples of who to follow, right? Who we consider to be doing an exceptional job. So upcoming ambassadors and community members who look at level 2 ambassadors or level 3 ambassadors, they will know who to look for advice or who to mimic, or what are these guys doing differently from other guys, and hopefully this will create a positive feedback loop into creating better and better ambassadors.
Yeah, that's very thoughtful. That was very thoughtful. I was thinking of that too, was how's this going to work? But you're going to show them what good looks like.
Exactly. That's precisely the case.
Brilliant.
And again, it has nothing to do with people working 80 hours a week and trying to increase their level. It has nothing to do with that. It's the people who best represent what we are trying to achieve. They get promoted so that others can really understand what we're trying to achieve.
Awesome.
Okay.
Eventually, you're going to have thousands and thousands of ambassadors, millions of ambassadors. All right, Philippe, you want to get the next one?
All right. So this is a question for Hinrich. Will there be any backdated rewards?
Thank you very much. That's an important topic to talk about. And we also received some similar questions since we've launched the phase 2. And it's a valid question, right? I would ask the same question as an ambassador. And this topic has also come up at a very early stage when we started to design the phase 2. On the one hand, we really wanted to ensure that both the existing ambassadors and newly appointed ambassadors stand on equal grounds, right? So we also have certain criteria now for the phase 2 that need to be met. So we really wanted to have current ambassadors and newly appointed ambassadors to start on or stand on the same ground. And on the other hand, if you launch a new program of this scope, and especially if there are rewards included in this program, you also need to draw a clear line. Otherwise, it's very, very hard to get things up and running. So we had to take 2 decisions during the last steps or the last miles of the program design. So first was the launch date itself, which we said, okay, it's beginning of May. And having said this, the second decision that we then took was that the launch date is also some kind of cutoff date. So contributions or commitments from our ambassadors from this day onwards will fall under the reward phase. But previous contributions from the ambassadors will not. So that's the answer to the question. But to be very clear, right, there's so much valuable contribution being from the ambassadors, and it does no way mean that we don't appreciate it. It's quite the contrary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had to establish a starting point and say, here's where we start from, exactly. And then we move forward from here. Okay. Well, you got the program launched. So, yay, woohoo! You got it launched. All right. So that was, will there be any backdated rewards? The next one was, how does the ambassador level promotion work? Can ambassadors start at level 2 or level 3? And that one was leaning toward Tiago's skills.
Sure.
Can you start at level 2 or 3?
I think it goes... the straight answer is no. All ambassadors start at level 1, and precisely for the same reasons that Hinrich just mentioned. Everyone starts at the same level, so everyone stands on equal grounds. To be promoted works much in the same way as the initial nomination to become an ambassador to begin with. Every quarter of the year, we will send out a call for promotions inside the ambassador Slack. Someone or yourself as an ambassador need to nominate someone who will be asked to provide links to the work done for their secondary role. So basically, the level 2 will allow you to earn from a secondary role. So let's say that you are a translator, but you are also a content creator. With level 2, and you are a translator to begin with, in level 2, you will be able to start earning rewards for the content that you create. And the same goes for level 3. You will be able to earn from a third category of roles. The call for promotion will happen. The first one will happen next month of June. And again, quantity is not a factor. Being an ambassador is not a full-time job. The vast majority of our ambassadors hold regular jobs, they have families, and their time is valuable. We will promote those who we feel that best represent Cardano Foundation's mission and ethical standards, those who show altruism and open cooperation rather than protagonism and competition. It is essential. It's essentially a quantitative evaluation, rather a qualitative assessment by the entire community management team. And we get together, we review the candidates, and we reach a consensus. And that is how you're able to advance in levels.
Okay, thank you. You guys seem to have thought this out very thoroughly. Very thorough.
Now you start to understand why it took so long.
Yep. Now it's all making sense now.
So next question is, which ambassador skills do you need the most? We talked a little bit about the categories already. So is there one that you're leaning towards more than the others?
Ambassador skills. Well, by skills, those with language skills, those from different professionals, different backgrounds, different countries that we don't have a direct reach yet. Ambassadors are an extension to Cardano, to the Cardano project in the field, online, offline, and it's essential to implement new use cases that they foresee. Cardano is a humanitarian and societal technology. Our ambassadors play a role in making sure that it's put in the hands of the right people. So, as the wider the diversity, the better. Okay, so we're not looking for specific skills. We are all inclusive. We want as many as possible, because the more diverse you have, the more interesting new use cases and potentials you will be able to find. We hope to attract people with a vision, with passion, and even entrepreneurial proactiveness, that they use their ambassador status not only to receive rewards, but to be recognized as an industry thought leader. This can be the catalyst to achieve incredibly new potential things, so to speak, to implement Cardano in society through the ambassadors' network of connections. Ambassadors can reach at an individual level what we at the Cardano Foundation cannot. So we invite all our ambassadors to brainstorm on the incredible contributions they can provide to our ecosystem. So to wrap it up, we're not looking for any particular skills. We're looking for the widest variety possible.
Someone's going to surprise us with their creativity. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
We are going to be surprised.
I've seen it before. I've seen it before several times. And Cardano is just on a completely different league. And when we have Gogan, and it's just going to be amazing what's going to be created. I'm absolutely sure.
Awesome. That was so we got the skills. So how would you measure? We kind of touched on this. I was reviewing the question. That last question was from me, by the way. And the next one is, how will you measure the quality of effort and demand to determine the value added for each ambassador contribution? Now, you already kind of touched on that, but is there anything else you would like to add to that, Tiago?
Yeah, sure. Because this is something that needs to be talked about. The ambassadors and the community need to hear it, and hopefully this will stir up conversation, debate, and brainstorming. So, yeah, happy to address this again. So again, we opted not to use the name quality in our assessments, as I explained before. Not even in regards to individual production, but globally. How can we measure an in-depth long-read article against a well-prepared, produced, and post-produced podcast? Right? How can we possibly be able to measure that? How do we measure a translation against a meetup so that the rewards are fair? This is incredibly difficult. And then the more criteria that we try to add, the less liberty the ambassadors have to express themselves. And we don't want to be the limiting factor. So having said that, we do have criteria for eligibility, of course. Really quickly, translators receive a fixed reward of 2 cents a word. Meetup organizers are rewarded for setting up an event, for providing visual feedback like pictures and videos, short interviews, stuff like that, and a written recap on the forum, plus $1 per attendee. And they also get to receive some swag to distribute at the event. Moderators, and we also added the possibility to create virtual meetups, which this whole unfortunate COVID situation happened, right? So
yeah, we had to adapt.
Yeah. Moderators receive a flat rate for being there on one of our major social channels, and that is a flat rate of $100 per channel. Content creation, again, admittedly, the hardest role to rate, to qualitatively quantify, so to speak. It's hard. We have set in place a 3-tier system, and we will be testing during this pilot phase. And again, like I said before, okay, so we will evaluate content based on our empirical experience in audiovisual. So Tommy, for example, is a great video editor. I'm an audio engineer as well. So I've done hundreds of hours of audio production. I've also written content. And we will try to measure it in terms of projected man hours rather than quality or quantity, right? We will judge by the ROI it can provide to the community. Some content may have little time investment, but provide incredible value to the community, while others may be very long pieces of content that provide very little and were very easy to produce. So as mentioned, this is a pilot period, and we will work alongside the ambassadors to improve upon this model.
All right. Well, thanks for going into the great level of detail. After this podcast, people are going to have a much better understanding if they haven't had already, but new viewers are going to see this, and it'll help them get involved. And we'll get the links down below, like you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Next question. So this is a financial question. So how will ambassadors receive rewards? Second part of this question is will these rewards be sent in ADA? And then the final question, if so, whose wallet will they be coming from?
Let me answer this. That's a good question. Sounds simple. I mean, Rick, you already mentioned earlier that the rewards will be in ADA, and it is the case. So rewards will be in ADA, and those rewards will come from the ADA assets the Cardano Foundation is holding. So also to add some transparency here, Backdated already published a note on this, I think it was last week. We recently transferred some part of our ADA holdings to a new wallet, which is fully under the control of the Cardano Foundation, and from which we can operationally do those transactions in a very secure and also in a regulated environment. So that also allows us to have the proper documentation of the transactions internally, which is definitely required, right? So current status is yes, rewards in ADA. They will come from the ADA assets the Cardano Foundation is holding. And this might change in the future, or we might adjust this if this is required, if there are any new requirements from external that we need to meet. But in those cases, we will definitely inform the ambassadors in time before.
I have a quick follow-up question.
Sure.
How sustainable is this long term? I mean, we have 50 ambassadors now. You said you received 100 applications. Let's project 6-12 months in the future. And let's say the price of ADA still stays depressed. Is there a way for the funds that are supposed to be allocated to ambassadors to maintain a certain level of sustainability that it can function independently of Cardano Foundation just having to tap into their main wallet all the time in order to feed it?
So we have a very detailed budget planning for the whole program developed, and we also included different possible scenarios for this. So I think we're on a good way to make this really to a sustainable solution like it is planned right now.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing the payments in native. I just want to let you know, as a pool operator, there's people who are going to count your pockets. They're going to say, how much ADA do they have this month, and how much ADA do you have next month? And they're going to kind of like start tallying up how much are they paying the ambassadors, right? Someone's going to like figure it out, and they're going to. That's just what people are going to do. I know. I've had a few people pay me and say, as a pool operator, you're making blah. I say, yeah, it's on the blockchain. That's how blockchains work.
Yeah.
So you'll have people counting your pockets and trying to figure that out. Maybe you can figure out a shell game, try to hide it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right. So the next one was, what are the criteria? Well, that was a 3-part question. Was the rewards on ADA? If so, which wallet will they be coming from? Of course, Cardano Foundation, because you'd have to have control of the private keys. Did you have anything else to add to that one? I think that was covered. Yeah. Covered pretty good. All right. The next question was, how will or what are the criteria for accepting and declining an ambassador, nominee, or application? So how do you accept or decline when somebody applies?
Should I take this one? Mm-hmm. Okay, so ideally, ambassadors or potential ambassadors are active and known community members who are nominated due to their positive participation and established contributions. Okay, but that may not always be the case. Some people are just not fond of social media while still supporting the project and provide value to the community. Not everyone likes Telegram or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. So in the nomination form, which is on the cardano.org/ambassador, there's a button to nominate. You click on the button and you will have a couple of questions to answer. And we will ask for example of content, translations, and meetup events, like I detailed before. Moderators are easier to flag because when I say flag, I mean, just, we know who they are because they already actively participate in our channels. We would never accept a moderator to be an admin on one of our channels if we don't know them really, really well and have already a direct relationship with. So what happens is once a month, the entire community team gets together and we review every single application. If people filled out all the form properly, if they provided the necessary links, and if they qualify the criteria, and once we have a short list of these people, we openly debate until we reach a consensus. So it's a team-wide effort, and that is because we want to be as, again, it's a bit difficult to use the word decentralized because it's not right now, but it's not up to 1 or 2 or 3 people. It's the entire team that gets together, and so did you read that article? What did you think about that translation? Do we know this person? Are they on our channel? Are they on the forum? So we go through this whole process, and then we've never up to now we've never had a disagreement. We've never had to vote to I don't agree. No, we usually are in consensus of who we believe is a good candidate to be an ambassador. So that's how it's processed. Okay,
good. So you have criteria and you have a board and you get together. Good. And you review it.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the criteria is on the website. You can just go over there and just look at it, and it's a pretty low tier. Low barrier of entry. That's how we define it. But at the same time, you will need to be able to achieve that criteria to be able to be eligible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's a low barrier because you accepted mine. Philippe, I can understand, but mine, I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens. Philippe, you want to get the last one?
Yes. The last one is, we have one more after that.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
So how is the process and regulation impacting the daily life of developing new programs with the community? What are the challenges? So I'm assuming that this question also taps into, phase 2 is all about rewards. I'm sure you had to clear a lot of legal loopholes not legal loopholes, but legal situations and make sure that distributing money to people all over the world or distributing rewards has to be done in following the laws of certain jurisdictions. Or I don't know if you want to touch into how difficult that process was.
Yeah, I like the question a lot. If we work on new projects, it's one of my focus areas to ensure that we have the right processes in place and also the most efficient processes and ensure that they are really compliant with the requirements we have internally and externally, right? And launching such a program like phase 2 with the scope we have right now and also with the rewards included seems like perhaps to some people like it can be done quite easily, right? But the more you dive into the details, the more questions can come up that you need to consider. So the devil is definitely in the detail, right? Especially if you define processes. So for example, for the phase 2, we had internal processes and external. So we need to ensure efficiency on both sides, and also that the maintenance of the program internally is working with the resources we have right now in the most efficient way, right? It's I mentioned earlier, it's the cross-team work, the maintenance of the program. So people within the foundation need to know how it's really working, what they need to do, how this relates to work that other people are doing, right? It's also questions like what kind of documentation do you need, especially if financial aspects are involved. And for the external side, for you, the ambassadors, it's also important that we have efficient processes. And so it's also relevant to highlight in this context that the Cardano Foundation is a Swiss entity, right? So we're being supervised by the Swiss authorities and also audited by external auditors, which is the normal procedure here, right? It's nothing to worry about it. It's normal here in Switzerland. So I always say to the team that we need to work on those topics in a way that in case someone comes and asks us what we're doing or how we're doing things, that we have proper documentation and processes in place, right? That's absolutely key for me. I don't want to have any audit issue or something like this because we haven't thought through a process in the right way. So I'm coming from an environment also that is probably one of the most regulated ones to work in. And it's not about creating bureaucracy or creating processes or SOPs or something like this. It's just we need to ensure there are certain rules that we need to meet internally and externally. And it's the only way that the foundation can sustainably successful also with what it's doing, with the programs we're launching. And also it's important for the whole Cardano project that we work the way we're currently working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yes, processes, regulations are having impact on what we're doing, especially for topics that have a bigger scope. But we always have a holistic view on the new topics or new projects, including different views from operational side and all the different areas, and try to really solve it in the most efficient way, both for us internally and for the community external.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to hear that you have the processes in place, because I think, accountability in crypto is good, and it sounds like it's a very professional operation. So, and that's reassuring. It's reassuring. Crypto's been pretty reckless over the last 10 years up until probably 2017, but it's really starting to look more professional as time goes on. So well done. We got our last question, Philippe. We're on the last one, and we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so the last one here was, how will the roles of ambassadors evolve as the project progresses, as we move towards decentralization? How will that evolve? And this is up in the air for anyone.
Well, I'm not sure I want to answer that question because that would be revealing some ideas that we have. And that would be like spilling the beans. Definitely, this is phase 2. And it took us a long time to get here. And for reasons that I hope that you guys and the community can appreciate. And all I can say is that it's a good new beginning for great things to come.
Okay, that's fair enough. And some things are better off centralized, especially at the beginning when it's
let me just add to this that keywords here are self-governance, decentralization.
Yeah,
and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, and it'll get there. It's going to start off centralized and
sounds good.
Okay,
I think I think we wrapped up all of our questions. And we want to thank all the Reddit users for leaving wonderful questions. And Rick, what do you think? I mean, I think we hit all the main points for the Phase 2 Ambassador program. What are your thoughts, Rick?
We did. I think we'll get the links down below so that people can follow the links and read the criteria, fill out the application if they believe they meet the criteria, and get looked at. And hopefully we inspire a lot more young and creative people to get involved and get engaged in the Ambassador program and get some really great content, translation, moderators, all that kind of stuff. New creative material in multiple languages. There's a lot of English language material out there. So maybe, and some in Japanese, although I don't understand Japanese, but get some stuff out there in Spanish, French, that would be great. Any language, but yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I think we covered it all, man. I think people will get something out of this episode. They'll get a better understanding, and they'll know which direction to go. Sound good?
Agreed. So, Tiago, Hinrich, we want to thank you for jumping on the Cardano Effect podcast. It is a Saturday. We are recording this. It's supposed to be released early next week. And thank you for taking the time to come on our program. You're welcome anytime. The last words are for you. Do you have any last words for the listeners and viewers of the Cardano Effect?
So first of all, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. And I mean, this will become probably the most important year for the Cardano Foundation this year. And we're really looking forward to an exciting time this year, and really thank our community and our ambassadors for the great support. And you're part of the Cardano team. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. Likewise, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. The Cardano community is growing. We're seeing that every day. And as Hinrich mentioned, this is a big year not only for Cardano Foundation, but for the Cardano protocol as well. It's going to be an incredible ride from here forward, and I'm excited to see things unfold. And once again, thank you very much for having me.
All right, well, thank you for being on the program.
All right, and until the next episode of the Cardano Effect, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.